We all love Splatoon. It has amazing gameplay, characters, stories, music, style, not map, weapons, playstyle, lore, etc. But one feature about the game I feel doesn't get nearly enough acknowledgement as it deserves is Splatoon's sound design. No, I'm serious. I genuinely think this is one of Splatoon 3's specifically most underappreciated aspects. I think Nintendo acknowledges the sound design aspect more than the players do with all the adjustments they've made to it in multiple patches. Why do they care so much about the sound design and everything? Nintendo, please just fix the map! It doesn't mean much when compared to everything I mentioned earlier, but the quality of the sound design has helped me out way more than I ever thought it would, and I want to talk about it. The sound design was already very noticeably unique with Splatoon 1 and 2. Sound composer Yuki Tsuji confirmed in an interview that the Splatoon 1 sound effects were actually created from scratch. He had to go out one day to a store and buy everything but the reasonable looking products. I can only imagine the look he got from the concerned cashier. What are you buying these for? Back then, I didn't care about what horrifying sounds were being made before going into a boss fight. I cared about what color aerospray I wanted to use. Yeah, I'm feeling poopy bronze today. And Splatoon 2, I was too focused on avoiding Satan and doing literally everything else. But it wasn't until Splatoon 3 where I really began to notice just how good the sound design truly was. Oh, finally, I can hear what it's like to flush a squid down a toilet. The purpose of sound design in video games is to make you feel like you're truly playing as the character on screen, giving the world just that extra bit of believability and immersion. It's a hidden aspect of media in games that often doesn't get the attention it fully deserves. I didn't even begin to appreciate what goes into sound design through Splatoon, but with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What? Ignoring the part where I became a huge fan of the series for a bit there, the sound effects the stands made were all just very satisfying to listen to, and from that point onward, I began to really appreciate sound design as a whole. Smash Ultimate released the same year I got into JoJo, and damn, those punches almost convinced me they actually assaulted someone just to get these super crunchy sound effects. The sound that plays when you inhale a ton of enemies and curve only to shoot them back out really made me feel more useful than an ink vacuum. And Tetris 99, a little jingle plays when you T-spin it. That was all I needed to feel special. These are all examples of sound design enhancing the user experience, which is already a good start. But Splatoon 3 really showed me how far you could push the limits of sound design in video games by directly helping the player during matches and by making special activations sound less audible to your teammates. Oh, thank God. They won't hear me in my giant ink jetpack flying across the stage now. I've had a good amount of comments asking me how to improve at Splatoon, and before I start to question why they come to me out of all the competitive players out there, I usually reply with keep your position in mind along with your enemies. Learn your weapon strengths and weaknesses, and the same for your opponent. Going into matches knowing said strengths and weaknesses will allow you to be more aware of when and when not to take fights. It's a very safe answer, but one I feel most new players can get value out of. You don't need to know what weapons' exact ranges are. You can just look at weapons and go, oh, that has normal range. Oh, you have no range. Oh, you have a lot of range. Fuck you. But when most bring up these points, they're mostly talking about being aware with your eyesight and looking directly for enemies, but never mention hearing out your enemies. Ninja Squid is still a very common ability seen in high-ranked lobbies and tournaments, and for some players, they still have a hard time keeping up with Ninja Squid. Due to switching games, Ninja Squid was free from the Splatoon 2 meta where you basically couldn't run it due to missiles and ink armor always revealing your position, but now it could thrive without the fear of ink armor being a thing and the 4 missile weapons not being very viable in high-level play, with a small exception for Flings and Viper Deco. There are ways to counter it with subs and specials, but despite those, Ninja Squid is still a very strong ability even after getting a small nerf. Some just don't know how to fight against it, and on a rare occasion, I'll even struggle keeping up with the ink trail it leaves behind. The ink colors also change how noticeable it is too. For example, some Splatfest colors are extremely dark, which makes using Ninja Squid even more effective, and some only play with the new color lock option solely because it's easier to notice Ninja Squid, but I just like how the blue color looks. Though I'm sure you can guess where this is going. One of the main aspects that has helped me a lot when fighting against Ninja Squid is hearing it. There have been a lot of times where I wasn't sure where my opponent was, but due to them swimming around a lot, they made themselves more noticeable, and I was able to get an accurate guess on where they were and get a kill. And we can even apply this in reverse. In higher ranked or X battle lobbies, I would still often find myself getting taken out while running Ninja Squid. The players out there all know how to spot or hear out the ink trail noise you leave behind when using Ninja Squid. It encouraged me to challenge myself to stop relying solely on Ninja Squid and learn how to stealth swim to shark better, since there's no sound at all when you stealth swim. And now that I've gotten the hang of it, I don't really feel the need to go back to Ninja Squid. I'm not saying don't run it at all. Using Ninja Squid while also stealth swimming has a ton of benefits that will aid your performance during the whole match. I just don't want to start using Ninja Squid super often again until I feel really confident with my sharking skills. And it was during this process of not using Ninja Squid that I really noticed a lot of scenarios where simply hearing my opponents gave me the upper hand in fights. If I'm sharking and need to know who to target but can't see them, I can hear out their weapons to realize who's the easier opponent to attack and go from there. If I'm fighting on the top of Flounder Heights and hear someone paint the wall wall with a burst bomb, I'll know where to position myself to immediately attack when they're caught off guard. If I'm playing a scope charger positioned away from it, I can hear the zipcaster arm attach onto a wall and move out of the way before they get the jump on me. Yeah, that's right, don't you fucking play with me, I didn't grind this gold badge for nothing! It's thanks to this rule that I put on myself that I was able to improve my overall skill just that tiny bit. Now, obviously, this won't take you from C- all the way up to S plus 50. You'll still have to work a lot on your own personal flaws, but 10, you might not be asking, what if all the weapons sound the same? Well, I'm glad you said nothing, because that's just another reason why the sound design in Splatoon is so strong. Almost all of the weapons, including subs and specials, have their own unique sound to it, making it easier to differentiate them from each other. Every shooter, bucket, splatling, dually, inkbrush, Brella, stringer, Splatana, and most of the chargers all sound different from one another. And Big Swig and S-Blast. Those for some reason are the only blaster and roller that sound different. But you can get a good idea of what version of them an opponent is using by how long it takes for the sound to finish and start again, which can also be applied to any weapon you might be slightly confused on still. If it wouldn't take super long, I'd play every sound effect for you all now, but I'll cut it down to just a couple of my favorite weapon sound effects. Hydra Splatling is definitely one that sticks out to me. Just the charging up sound alone gives it a slow and powerful feeling, which really makes Hydra feel like a threatening weapon. And when Hydra is fully charged up, it sounds ready to absolutely kill the competition by missing all of the shots. Beluga Dually takes the existing dodge roll sound and makes it sound slow and heavier, which has always made Beluga stick out. People have definitely picked up stringers just from the one-shot sound alone. I am people. It's also odd that H3 shares the same sound effect. These three weapons are the only ones that have this one-shot sound effect. Every other charger, blaster, and Splatana share a different one-shot sound effect, but both are pretty satisfying to hit. I just prefer this one. And 96 Gal is one of my favorites, not for any sound detail, but because I like to imagine myself going doo 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 every time it fires. Doo 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 doo. Oh my god, it sounds awful. And of course, my favorite, Splatana Stamper. The wind-up sound is probably one of the most notable sound effects within the game, but damn, I do not care. Landing a direct hit is already satisfying enough, but putting fear into my opponents with this sound is just the cherry on top of it all. They really went all out in terms of making each weapon sound different from each other. There's rarely a time when you'll get confused just by listening to them. And this fully applies to the ranked modes, with the tower and clam tune that plays, and the Rainmaker with its loud charge and firing sounds. Even subs and specials are all completely different from one another, with maybe Splat and Suction Bomb sounding the most similar, but you can almost tell which one is which by the sound Suction makes when it gets stuck to a wall. Please trust me, I spent almost 2 hours on fact-checking all of these. Big Bubble plays a distorted sound that lets everybody know you're using a bad special. Zipcaster and Ultra Stamp Brush Mode is one of the loudest sounds in the game, period. Wavebreaker's sound just makes me feel smart until I forget to jump, and of course, and well, if you want to get controversial, we can look at Splatoon 3 maps in Recon Mode. Oh my god, I have to say something good about Mincemeat. Gorse has sounds of rusty metal beams creaking, and an eagle that won't shut up. Etel Alley perfectly represents what it's like living in a city, having that one annoying neighbor who won't stop banging on the walls, and a loud train that goes by way too often. Undertow has a creepy but also oddly comforting ambience, along with the wind going down into the underground, and the small water drops you occasionally hear. Mincemeat has the sound of construction work going on, and you can even see Jellies using a forklift in the background. Fix the map already! Hammerhead has vehicles driving by above us during a match, and god, I hope the bridge collapses and they fall down. Maybe we'll get an actual playable map that way. Museum, you can hear the rotating platforms move, and Squid's pissing. I haven't been the same after hearing this. For some reason, the thing I always notice on Mako Mart is the sound of the receipt printing. I'm sure the most recognizable part of Barnacle and Dime on Recon Mode is the elevator theme that played in the Sizzle Season trailer. But they for some reason gave this little tiny restaurant its own theme, and I love that they did. How do customers get here though? Wahoo World sounds really reminds me of the joy of Jelly Endangerment, and Mahi has too much bass playing. These are also the only maps that have sounds that benefit the player. Yeah, Mahi and Wahoo World. What a couple, I know. Wahoo World has the sound of the bridge opening and closing, and Mahi has the jingle that plays when the water level is sinking. Guess which map I like more? Yeah, that's right, the one with the boy band. Oh, do you guys think he's single? I'm sure there's a good chunk of Splatoon players who already knew some of this stuff, but I wanted to highlight this to really show that the developers took that extra step to make the world of Splatoon feel that just a little bit more real. They didn't need to add in any of this. It was already going to be overpowered by the in-game music alone. You'll rarely hear any of this during a match, but it's still here, and I appreciate that it is, even if only 2 of them are actually beneficial to the player. And who's to say we won't ever get another map that has the same sound design as Wahoo World and Mahi. But once you get a good grip on what weapons, sub-specials, and even the 2 maps sound like, you'll be able to pick up on the smallest traces of them during a match. It won't be an instant improvement because, yeah, learning over 50 plus weapons, sub-specials, and the 2 map sound effects is some real nerd emoji shit. I'm the nerd emoji. So if the task of learning what each weapon sounds like is a little intimidating, then I'd say learn how to pick up sounds from Salmon Run first. Splatoon's sound design being good isn't exclusive to multiplayer battles. They've given just as much, if not more, care to detail here in Salmon Run. I don't have the original Reddit post anymore, but early on in Splatoon 3, I was scrolling down Reddit looking for the 500th fry meme and came across a post of someone praising Salmon Run's sound design. And after reading that post, I started to listen in more during Salmon Run shifts, and I quickly realized how right that user was. It's a weird case where I had noticed the sound design of Salmon Run before I read that post, but then after reading it, it became an asset that I relied on and actively paid attention to, and my performance started to improve again, just by that little bit. If you want to improve your skill at Salmon Run just by a small margin, listen to the bosses. All of them are extremely different from each other, even more so than the main weapons, and there's less of them so you have less to memorize. Hearing the steelhead sound as if he's taking a giant shit, the flyfish jet exhaust, the stinger and fish sticks music when close to it, flipper flopper taking over the zone, Ouroboros, Antris, Scream, and oh, is that a fucking drizzler? These sounds are way easier to pick up on, and a neat little detail that I noticed while fact checking this, the Salmon Run tutorial music is a lot quieter, making it a lot easier to actually hear the boss sound, thus making it easier for new players who just finished the tutorial to pick up on what boss is on the map. But that's where a problem with all of this comes in, and I know someone is going to comment about it. The in-game music. Yeah, it gets in the way for some people, and with how a lot of music is more rock heavy, the chorus of songs tend to be a lot louder, making it a lot harder to pick up on sounds mid-matches. And hell, there's probably a lot of people who play the game on their TV or handheld and could have outside background noise while they're playing the game, which makes it even harder to hear the sounds. It's a bit more challenging to sell the idea of sound design to those who don't play Splatoon like this. The asshole answer is to say get headphones, and even then I don't play Splatoon on handheld or my TV very often, so I don't have any specific advice for that group, unfortunately. Surprisingly too, I believe the devs intended it to be this way. I don't have the exact interview on me, but it was stated in one that the devs kept the music in the game to prevent players who turn it off from having a huge advantage over others who kept it on. I like to look at this as the devs are saying, yeah, we made the sound design too good, so we gotta handicap y'all somehow. But they're not wrong, though I will at least recommend the idea of playing Splatoon with headphones. Why is this turning into a video to convince people to play with headphones? I play Splatoon with headphones on with stereo sound, and just like in the intro, it helped me out way more than I ever thought it would. Going back to my point about how if I'm striking and I hear two opponents' weapons, I could also hear out and tell which opponent is closer to me thanks to the stereo sound. Thus, I can put that into my consideration when choosing who to target. Though around the start of the fresh season, my current pair of headphones were on their last life and I had to replace them sooner than later. And after buying new headphones, I started playing Splatoon 3 and had no fucking clue what was going on. What was happening here? I was hearing the game fine, but I could no longer tell where exactly I was hearing my opponents from. I did circles around Mario just trying to figure out where one enemy was. When the match ended, I immediately went into looking what was going on with my headphones and realized I was playing on mono sound instead of stereo, and I was shocked at how much of a difference there was after simply just switching headphones. I felt as if I was almost playing Kaizo Splatoon 3. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but it really showed me just how reliant I became on hearing sound during matches. I learned how much harder it was to play like my normal self with just this one part of the game not even removed but slightly adjusted. And well, I'm sure you can tell now, it clearly stuck with me. So now I know for the next time I get headphones, I'm gonna make sure the stereo sound is on immediately when I get back to playing Splatoon 3. But you know, after all this talk about Splatoon sound effects, I kinda wonder how well I or others would do if our knowledge when it came to all of this was tested, like in a quiz format. Oh, I have a great idea.